The night air over Warsaw in September 1940 felt sharp enough to cut skin. You can almost taste the smoke that never fully leaves a city under occupation. German patrols moved like shadows between the lamps, boots clicking, rifles hanging loose but ready. People kept their heads down, eyes forward, and their fear quiet. And somewhere in that tense, suffocating darkness, a Polish cavalry officer made a decision that sounded like madness. Captain Witold Pilecki didn't plan to escape a prison camp. He planned to enter one on purpose. He knew the rumors already spreading across Poland. A place near the town of Auschwitz. A new camp the Germans called Auschwitz. People vanished there. Some came back broken. Most did not come back at all. Nobody knew.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content.
The full truth, only that it was getting worse by the week. The Polish underground needed proof. And names, numbers, details, something the outside world could not ignore. And Pilecki understood the problem. You could not report what you could not see. So he chose the only way to be sure. He would let himself be arrested. On the morning of September 19th, 1940, a German roundup swept through Warsaw. The streets filled with shouts and the heavy sound of bodies being shoved into trucks. Pilecki stepped into it like a man walking into a storm on purpose. Within hours, he was in the chaos of mass arrests, jammed among civilians, students, workers, anyone unlucky enough to be in the wrong place. Hands up, papers checked, faces struck. Then the ride began, packed so tightly that breathing became work. If you close your eyes, you can feel the crushing weight of strangers pressed against you, and the sick fear that the truck might not stop anywhere you'll ever return from. Auschwitz greeted them with shouting and dogs and floodlights. The gate was not just an entrance, it was a warning. The Germans wanted the new arrivals to understand one truth immediately. They owned your body now. Prisoners were thrown off trucks and forced into lines. SS guards screamed orders in sharp, clipped German. Rifle butts slammed into ribs. People stumbled, trying to keep pace, terrified of being singled out. Pilecki watched everything, storing details in his mind, because that was his real weapon. Not a pistol, not a grenade. Memory. He was registered as prisoner number 4859. His name became dangerous to use. In Auschwitz, names were something the camp tried to erase. Survival meant learning new rules fast. Do not look guards in the eyes. And do not appear weak. Do not lag behind. Do not speak unless spoken to. Hunger was constant, like a slow fire burning inside the stomach. The food was thin soup, a slice of bread, sometimes nothing that felt real. Disease spread quickly. Typhus, dysentery. In winter, the cold sank deep into bone. Men slept in packed barracks, breathing the same stale air, listening to coughing and whispers and the quiet sound of someone not waking up. Pilecki's first weeks were about staying alive long enough to work. He was a soldier, trained to endure pain, but Auschwitz was built to crush even trained men. Prisoners were beaten for no reason, killed to set examples, worked until they collapsed. Roll calls lasted for hours. You can almost feel your legs trembling, the mud freezing around your boots, the wind hitting sweat-soaked cloth, and the fear of moving even an inch. If someone fell, the line held. If someone tried to help, the guards' club answered. But Pilecki was not only enduring. He was building something inside the camp, quietly, carefully. He began to connect with other Polish prisoners who still had strength in their eyes. men who had not surrendered inside. He created a secret network that would later be known as the WW2, the Union of Military Organization. It wasn't an army with uniforms. It was an invisible system. Prisoners sharing extra food, passing warnings, hiding the sick when possible, keeping morale alive. Most important of all, gathering intelligence. What transports arrived, how many men died, which blocks were punished, which SS officers gave orders. The camp tried to isolate prisoners, but Pilecki's network stitched them back together like torn fabric. The most dangerous part wasn't the hunger or the cold, it was the truth he was discovering. Auschwitz was not only a prison camp, it was becoming something far worse. Executions were routine. Torture was common. Prisoners were worked to death, deliberately. And as time passed, the machinery of murder grew more organized. Pilecki saw new arrivals treated like cargo. He saw selections that decided life or death in seconds. He heard about killings that left no trace. And he understood that if this truth stayed inside the wire, the world would be blind until it was too late. So he did what seemed impossible. He started smuggling reports out. How do you send a message from a place designed to erase you? Not with a radio that would be found in minutes, and not with obvious couriers. Pilecki used what the camp could not fully control: human movement and tiny chances. He relied on prisoners who worked outside the strictest zones, on civilians forced to assist, on bribed guards, on escaped men who could carry words like explosives. Bits of information were written in secret, hidden inside clothing, inside tools, inside food containers. Sometimes the reports were memorized and repeated later because paper itself could mean death if discovered. Each report was a piece of a larger picture: the camp's true purpose, the scale of the crimes, the urgency. Those messages reached the Polish underground first, and then were pushed toward Allied channels. They were early warnings, some of the first detailed intelligence from inside Auschwitz. The tragedy was that the truth, even when delivered, did not always trigger action. It was hard for people far away to accept that an industrial system of killing could exist at that scale. But Pilecki kept reporting anyway, because his job wasn't to control what others believed. His job was to make sure the truth existed outside the fence. Inside Auschwitz, the cost of that mission grew heavier every month. The SS watched constantly for resistance. Informers existed among prisoners, men who traded lives for privileges. Raids happened, random searches, sudden punishments. Pilecki's network had to operate like smoke, present but impossible to grab. He watched friends disappear. He watched good men break under torture. Every day demanded a choice between caution and courage, and both could kill you. By 1942, the camp was expanding and the killing was accelerating. The place felt less like a prison and more like a factory, with trains feeding it and ash leaving it. Pilecki realized something cold and practical. If he stayed, he would likely die before his work could change anything. He needed to get out and report face to face, with full details, with the weight of a witness no one could ignore. Escape from Auschwitz was almost unheard of. It was surrounded by guards, fences, patrols, and a countryside that could betray you with one phone call. But he began to plan. On the night of April 26, 1943, Pilecki made his move. He escaped with 2 comrades while assigned to a bakery outside the main camp perimeter. Timing had to be perfect. A single shout, a single gunshot, and everything would end. They cut phone lines, slipped away, and ran into the dark. You can almost feel their lungs burning as they sprinted through fields, every rustle in the grass sounding like a German dog closing in. They moved by instinct and training, hiding by day, traveling by night, following stars and distant landmarks, praying not for comfort, just for one more hour alive. After days on the run, Pilecki reached safety and returned to the resistance. Now, he wasn't a rumor. He wasn't a second-hand story. He was a living witness who had walked through Auschwitz and come back carrying the truth like a wound. He wrote detailed reports describing what he had seen, and he urged action, an attack, a rescue effort, something to disrupt the camp's operations. Even when those plans failed or were judged impossible, his testimony remained. It added weight to the growing evidence of German crimes. It proved that the nightmare had a name, a location, a system, and a timeline. Witold Pilecki had done something that still feels unreal even today. He had volunteered to enter a death camp, organized resistance under the eyes of the SS, and smuggled out the truth while surrounded by murder. His weapon was not only bravery, it was discipline, patience, and the refusal to let evil operate in silence. In a world where fear forced most people to look away, he chose to look straight at the darkest place on earth, and then he carried what he saw back into the light, so history could never say it didn't know.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content.